Hey guys, JD here with the Kawasaki Ultra 310 Series JetSki with our 1500cc Kawasaki supercharged and intercooled marine engine. So today I will be showing you how to remove and replace the drive belt. This is a very important component in the maintenance of your ski. It doesn't matter what mods you have or what tune you have, if that belt is not functioning properly, your ski will suffer from poor performance. So I want to go over some of the steps that are involved just to give you an overview of the scope of this project. As always, I recommend you have a Kawasaki service manual on hand that has all your torque values in case I don't give you, in case I skip over those parts. It's good for you to have all the torque values and diagrams of how everything is reassembled. It's always good to have that in front of you. To remove the belt, we're going to have to do a couple things. First, we're going to have to remove our oil catch can. Next, we're going to have to remove all the ducting connecting the engine to the intercooler and the supercharger to the intercooler. So our first main duct is right down there. You remove the hose clamps on either side of that and it should come off pretty easily. Next, you're going to remove your ducting on this side. On the exit side of the intercooler, we have our supercharger relief valve. You're going to disconnect this and move that out of the way. And then the main duct down here from the intercooler to the throttle body, we're going to disconnect that. You're also going to remove the hose on the back of your BOV. And if you have an LX or an LXS model with a rear camera, you're just going to disconnect this clip here. And there's also a clip on the air temp sensor from the intercooler that's in the harness right here. You're going to disconnect that clip as well. Next, we're going to disconnect the upper exhaust pipe assembly here. We're going to have to remove our exhaust filter and our gaskets. And then we're going to have to remove the lower duct down there. I don't know if you can see it in this video, but there's a duct down there with two hose clamps. We're going to have to remove that. And then there's a band around the water box back there holding the water box in place. And with a really long pair of needle nose pliers, we're going to reach back there, disconnect that band around the water box. That will allow us to slide this exhaust assembly back in order to disconnect it. That'll save us from having to remove the whole upper manifold here and have to untorque these bolts and have to change that gasket. So then the final step before we can move the engine back is to unbolt the four motor mounts. There's one in each corner. The one in this corner is under the supercharger bracket, so it's a little bit challenging. I'm going to show you how to do that with a ratcheting wrench. Once we remove all those, we'll then be able to use a 2x4. In fact, in my case, I'm going to be using a 2x6 just because it gives me a little more leverage. We're going to use that big piece of wood just to leverage the engine forward, and then that will disconnect our driveline coupler and allow us to slip out the belt and also check our rubber driveline damper, which is between the two couplers. Also involved in that process, we're going to be removing the belt from the tensioner assembly here. And in this case, I'm going to be removing the stock tensioner assembly completely because I have a really special treat for you guys. It's a automatic stainless steel and anodized aluminum automatic tensioner from Kawi Performance. I will not be installing that in this video. That video will actually be featured on Watercraft Journal, but I will be showing you all the steps today to remove and replace your supercharger drive belt. So stay tuned, and remember, any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I usually respond to as many as I can. Hope you enjoy the video. So to get the process started here, the first step is to remove the two 10mm bolts holding the oil catch can in place. Then use your fingers or use the pliers and go ahead and remove all three hoses attached to the catch can. When you remove the hose in the bottom, make sure that you have a paper towel ready to catch any oil that might spill out. Alright, so I've got the two 10mm bolts securing the catch can off. I've got the catch can out of the way. So you can see from the belt down there, even from this far away, that the belt is pretty worn. And you can see that white right there, and you can see that fraying on the edge of the belt. So this belt is at the end of its life. So all that black there, you can see down in there in the bilge, all splattered on the intercooler there. That's little bits of the belt that have broken down. They're kind of stuck to the fluid film there. And we're going to go ahead and remove these two bolts on the bottom of the intercooler. All right, so I've removed the main duct between the intercooler and the throttle body. That is right there. And I've removed the supercharger relief valve, and now I've just removed the hose clamp for the blow-off valve. Just gonna push that out of the way there. Now I've loosened the main feed duct to the intercooler on both sides. You can see it's disconnected right there at the supercharger, and it's disconnected here at the intercooler. So now I'll wiggle that out. Now we have to loosen the exhaust pipe here and the hose assembly here, and we're gonna have to remove this. Unfortunately for me, I just replaced my exhaust filter not that long ago, so we'll see how that looks. We could reuse the filter, but the gaskets will have to be changed. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this hose off, and then we're gonna pop these 4 bolts that hold the this lower exhaust pipe muffler assembly in place. All right, so we've removed this hose. Careful not to lose that clamp. I'm gonna put it in my, and then using a 14mm socket, you're gonna go and loosen these 4. Make sure to loosen them in a crisscross pattern. So once you loosen these manifold bolts, also make sure to loosen those hose clamps, and then you gotta loosen that band around the water box that's right there. Whack that with a mallet, should pop loose. So the water box is loose. I've got that duct loose right there, and now we're just going to slide this back out of the way. You guys know, because it was on video, I just replaced this exhaust filter, and already, guess what? It's failed again. So we've got our lower exhaust pipe here disconnected. We removed the gaskets, and we removed the exhaust filter, and now we're going to go ahead and pull this off, and then we can get the intercooler out of the ski. All right, guys, so here's a look at the OEM belt tensioner assembly. You can see it's a little bit dirty in here. A lot of that black soot kind of grease was thrown off by this belt here. And just gonna give you a look at everything there. So I've got the intercooler out of the ski, and I've got the exhaust, the upper exhaust off. Check out my other videos for removing the intercooler. To detension, you can see I've got the belt off there. So to detension the tensioner, you're going to push this away from you. So you're gonna push it that way. You're gonna retract the exhaust, and then when you let it go, you're gonna let it go very, very slowly. Do not let the spring pop back quickly. So now you can see we've got the belt disconnected here. I'm gonna pull my breaker bar out of the way. So we've got our belt off of our idler pulley. We've got it off of the tensioner. And now we're gonna take a closer look at it just so we can see. Oh yeah, look at that. See that? It's all chewed up. Look at all that fraying along the sides. So you'll be able to use a 14mm socket and an extension to get off this, and that engine mount. This one here, without removing the supercharger, it's actually basically impossible to get a ratchet on there. So you're going to want something like this, a gear wrench, a ratcheting wrench, and you want one that's a little bit shorter. This is not quite a stubby one, but it's a shorter one. And then what you're going to do is that wrench is just going to fit right in there like that. And it's going to be a little annoying, but you'll be able to loosen that mount. Get this engine mount in the front here. I'm just using this joint, and this makes it a little bit easier to get the angle. When you remove your 14mm engine mount bolts, keep in mind that it's got a real thick big washer, it's got a smaller washer, and then it's got a lock washer. When we reinstall those, we're going to use blue Loctite. All right, so I'm going to get those all loosened, and then we'll move the engine forward, and we'll get that old belt off. This is quite an involved process, but you know, there's no need to be overwhelmed by it. I'm taking you step by step. It can be done, and it will be done here, and you can do it too. So you're going to need a big piece of wood like this. A 2x4 will work. So you can see now that the engine's just about to come off the mount, so you don't want to let it get off completely. And we're using our piece of wood here to keep the engine back. And so now that I've got it far enough back, I'm going to reach down and I'm going to pull this old belt off. Okay, the old belt is off. So our old belt has been removed. It was subjected to extreme wear. So we have our new belt here. This is part number 59011-0032. All right, so here's our brand new belt. And I just wanted to show you this for comparison purposes. The left is the new belt, and the right is the old belt. So you could just see from looking at them how worn out that is. All right, let's get the new belt in place. All right, so once you get your new belt on, you get that lined up. You're then going to use your piece of wood. This is a smaller piece of wood, and you're going to use that. Oh, don't hit that. You're going to want to get it at the base of the engine, or the valve cover there, or the support bracket, and push your engine back into place. So now that we've got our brand new belt in place, I'm going to go ahead and retorque all the motor mounts. So just to recap, we had to remove our 4 engine mounts in order to slide the engine back, in order to remove the old belt and to put this new belt on through the coupler there. So now we've got to put our engine mount bolts back in place. So you can see I've got the first 14mm bolt right down there. That one's in. We got to get this one in on this side, and that one's in right there. This one and this one are the easiest. This one is the third easiest. This one is the most challenging. What you'll need to do this one is I recommend a gear wrench like this. You know, a ratcheting wrench. Makes it a lot easier to get down in there and to loosen and tighten this mount here. Make sure that you do apply blue Loctite to each of those bolts before they go back in. So make sure you torque all of these engine mount brackets here to 26.8 foot-pounds. This one here, I could not get a torque wrench on, but I guess do your best. And that will be the end of this video. That's how you replace your Kawasaki belt. I do have a comprehensive video on greasing the pivot bushing